Alright, so we've got our eye sockets. It's looking pretty good. And we haven't created the ear holes. We haven't done anything neat like that because we're actually going to bring up more reference than just the ones that they're providing us with when we're ready. So let's take a look at this area here where we create the like the nasal passages and of the skull. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my brush down a little bit. And I'm going to start off by, you probably noticed, I add clay first, right, to bring out that area. So, oops, let's make sure I'm on the right brush though. So brush clay buildup. Oops, I hit V by accident and that switched my color. If you hit X, it goes to darker color. So let's make sure that we're here. Another thing I like to do, should have brought this up earlier, is under my tool here, is right off the bat, I fill it with the dominant color, kind of like what I did with the pumpkin. So I want this thing to be white, but I also go in and I mark areas with my standard brush. So let me kind of comment that really quick. So I turn on my brush here. I'm going to go to color here, and I'm just going to fill the object. And then I'm going to hit B for brush, and I'm going to grab my standard brush, which is up here, and hold spacebar down, and I'm going to make it an RGB brush. And I'm just going to grab like a really dark color. I'm just going to mark in where the eyes are. And these are great ways of like me kind of, it's just a placeholder for where things could be. And that's like if I want to erase everything, I just go back to color here and I just fill it again, right, with the whatever dominant color I want. All right, so let's grab our clay buildup brush. So BCB, so BCB, there we go. Shift P to bring our thing back. I'm gonna hold Alt in here. I'm again just kind of adding clay in here, accentuating that area. Looks good. And I'm going to make sure that I leave a little bit of room in there so that I have that little bony area that I can add later. Because I'm eventually going to Dynamesh this whole thing. Another thing I want to do is start to add a little bit more information in here. So I'm going to add some just downward strokes all the way around the muzzle here. And we're going to go ahead and add a tooth, our first tooth. So what I'm going to do is with my move tool, BMT, right? BMT, there we go. Push this up, and then I want to double check the area. So if you're, again, I hit P to make sure that was in perspective mode. I'm going to make sure that push this area in a little bit. Pull these guys out. And then make sure that it's shaped properly in the front. I'm going to go to the top, make sure that I have like a curvature, nice curve going across the surface. There we go. This thing's not playing nice. Here we come on, baby. There we go. Okay. Let's push this in a little bit. Looking pretty good. All right, let's get our tooth in there. So, kind of got our little. I can tweak this stuff all day. I can probably make a whole video just on working on the, or I'm sorry, like a whole 50 videos just on focusing just on the top half of the skull. All right, so what I'd like you guys to do is we're going to make each tooth separately, and I think that's important because the more time you have like looking at fine details like where the tooth plugs in and like looking at where the high points are in the bone and how the bone wraps around it is only going to train your eye for more spatial relationships. So let's go ahead and append a cube here. So I'm going to, come on, there we go. I'm just going to grab any cube 3D. I'm going to hit Shift P here so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to turn on this brush and I'm going to fill this as well. So let's make sure we're all the way up here. Document. And then I'm just going to, or I'm sorry, color. And then I'm going to fill the object. And then let's hit E and let's scale this guy down. Oops, wrong one. I'm going to hold Alt and click and you'll notice it switched to subtool here. And bring that down. Looks like my skull was hidden. So bring that down, bring that forward. And then let's go hit Q here to go back to our edit mode. And I'm just gonna remesh this thing to like 0.1. So here's our ZRemesher, and then ZRemesh that down. And if I hit Shift F here, you can see it really brought it down. Let's bring back our teeth here. W, let's just move this down here. And then I'm going to hold Shift and just kind of smooth this out a little bit so I get that nice plump shape on the bottom. And then with my move tool, just pull it up like that. So something cool like this. And then what I do is, I actually, with this, I'm going to go ahead and rename this. Um, so tooth underscore 01 underscore left. Um, I don't actually know the names of the teeth. I know this is kind of hypocritical, but I think what I would like to do is I'm going to make you guys name them all the exact anatomical names. And I think I'm going to do it too, in like I was in the next video, is do that as well, just for my own. I mean, I think it's more for just, I mean, if we're going to be in this thing and we're going to be working with anatomy, out of respect to the anatomy, right? So, um, so I definitely am going to be looking when I grade this for naming conventions. Like, I mean, that's a no-brainer, but I think it would be kind of helpful for all of us, even myself. So in class, you can call me out if I'm like, what's the name of that? I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, so here's one tooth. And then what we want to do is I'm going to duplicate this, hit W, and move it off to the side here. And essentially, you're going to remake all of the teeth on one side. And what's nice about this is, let's go ahead and move this in a little bit. You're going to have to adjust them, is you're like, oh, I have to do that for all of them? And the answer should be yes, and you're really excited. But I'm going to show you a trick um, that's going to kind of help you cheat. But I think you should go through and just work on, the meditative process of sculpting each tooth. But you can go to Z plugin here and go down to Subtool Master, and we can just mirror that. And then it says merge into one subtool, and then hit OK. And what's nice about that is now you have two teeth, right? So let's hit Shift P here so you can see that. And you can go in here now and or click on that, and you can see now I'm sculpting with, if I have symmetry on both teeth. So I'm not gonna hate you if you do that. I totally get it. Like, some of you have time constraints, but if those of you who don't, like, just if this is your time, right? And out of respect to the project, um, then just do it, right? Like, if you don't have the time constraints and you have, all right. So you can go. I'm gonna go ahead and start to add things like this, right? Let's hit Shift P here to see how it really looks. We got a nice, and then we got another one going on here, right? Kind of wrapping around the tooth, kind of something like that, right? You can see it's really starting to come together, right? Let's turn on, make sure paint is on. And then again, we'll go back in and we'll really start to refine this area here, where the cheekbone is. And every time we go to ZRemesh or whatever, it's going to remove our paint. So get this going again here. Start to really accentuate that. Notice I'm only smoothing that outside edge. All right. All right, so I think I went a little long. I normally stay 3 to 6 minutes on the videos. I'm just having too much fun. All right, so what I'm going to do in the next one is, I think what I'll do is maybe offline, I'll just start blocking it out. I definitely want to start looking at things like this. This is starting to bother me. You see where the head cavity is sort of carving in? You want to always make sure you're going around and you're shaping it, right? Shaping the skull. And I need you guys to start looking at other references, right? Like where are the where are the temples on this thing, right? Like, like start looking at like really cool, because this is a portfolio piece for you, right? Like, why is this like this, right? And and then if we bring up our reference, you'll notice like, oh wow, it really does have a divot there, so I can move it in, right? So don't this project is a catalyst for all the other um, like all the other head sculpting stuff. So really enjoy this. Get in there, make this kick butt, okay?